What's good with y'all? What's good with y'all? What's cracking? So here we are, week 5 live. I'm gonna give a update while I'm doing all of my normal updates anyway. So far I do gotta address we are how many games? I think we're 2 or 3 games away from being able to advance early. And once again, remember, as far as early advances, yo, I do not wait for CPU games. So if you are a CPU game that hasn't been played yet, I will skip you. I will skip you if you're holding up the league, you know, giving us taking away time that we could be waiting to advance. Let's get right into it with our recap of week 4 and a look at week 5 since it's pretty much over with, only with just a few games not being played. First off, week 4, some of the bigger games, we had the Jets eke out a win against the Jaguars 21 to 17. We had the Eagles get their first W on the board 30 to 24 over the Tennessee Titans. We had the Colts get a 31 to 7 win over Houston. Man, that's actually a really big shocker. Let's dive into that game. 31 to 17 over the division leading Houston Texans. Look at the game. Andrew Luck, 4 passes, 3 interceptions. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Deshaun Watson, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Oh, and only 2 sacks given up this game. But rushing-wise, Nyheim Hines with 63 yards on 11 carries. Lamar Miller with 43 yards. And Dante Foreman with 15 yards. Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson coming in with roughly 10 apiece. Receiving wise, Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. We all knew, I think everyone knew Galvanez was going to go big to Ebron. That's probably the only weapon outside of Ty Hill who had 162 for 1 touchdown. But Eric Ebron with 2 touchdowns on 5 catches, that's pretty good. And these 2 being their only weapons, I guess that was why he went to him. Let's see what defensive numbers were put up because there were a lot of interceptions thrown on the part of both teams. I think it was a combined 6 interceptions. So 2 for Anthony Walker at middle linebacker, 1 for Tyrann Mathieu, 1 for Jonathan Joseph, 1 for Duke Thomas, and 1 for AJ Moore. Both teams put up 3 interceptions, and that was this looked like it was a really one-sided game. Let's look at the numbers, the box score. Total offensive yards. Colts almost doubled their offensive production while still having the same amount of turnovers, it seemed. Passing was a big thing in this game. 319 to 139. They both rushed roughly the same amount of yards. And it looked like the fourth quarter is where it really took off. The game looked to be 12 to 7 up until the fourth quarter where the Colts just pulled away. So Galvanez is talking his shit and actually backing it up. Let's see what other week 4 games were interesting. This was a tight one. Chicago versus Tampa Bay in a game where Tampa Bay actually won handily in the offensive yards gained, but it's all about them turnovers. Let's see the stats on this one. Jameis Winston, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mitch Trubisky finally throwing an interception this year. I think up to this point, he hadn't thrown an interception all year, and today he threw 2 against this daunting Buccaneers defense. Rushing Ronald Jones with 109 on the ground, and I don't think anybody had anything close. Wow, that's really crazy. Receiving, Deshaun Jackson turning back the hands of time with 195 receiving yards. Tyler Gabriel right on his behind with 142, and Trey Burton with 120. Curtis Samuels, the newly acquired Curtis Samuels, in a trade that is still, we're going to address trades later. 80 yards and a touchdown for himself. Defensively, how did that game turn out? Let's check interceptions. 4 players come up with interceptions. Jamal Agnew, Bryce Callahan, Dante Jackson, and Lavonte David. Any sacks today? Ooh, quite a few. Kendall Beckwith with 2. Carl Nassib with 2. Eddie Goldman with 1. Rashard Robinson with 1. Gerald McCoy with 1. Jason Pierre-Paul. Khalil Mack only getting on the board for 1, man. He's been off to a slow start this season. But that wraps up that game. Let's see what other games we have on tap for week 1. That was a blowout. Wow. But that was the computer, so we're going to skip that one. Oh, this was a shocker. Albert gets handled badly by the New York Giants in a game where I was completely shocked that it just got out of hand. Like, Kyle, wow, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. But Teddy Bridgewater, after signing a $100 million contract, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. We're not even going to go to the receiving or offensive numbers. I think this was all defense this game. And if I'm not mistaken, Curtis Riley with an interception or a fumble. Looked like a fumble return for a touchdown. Yep. Fumble recovery for a touchdown for 57 yards. Let's see all these interceptions that were thrown today. Marcus Williams catches 1. LaMarcus Joyner, Kareem Martin, Dalvin Tomlinson, Grant Haley. Oh my goodness. It was just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 New York Giants all get on the board with interception, and Marcus Williams only comes on with 1. This definitely was not a great game for Albert today. Rushing wise, Alvin Kamara, well, here you go right here. Saquon Barkley able to rip off 161, 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara with 63 yards to follow. Receiving, let's go by yards. Cameron Meredith with a touchdown. Sterling Shepard, 135. Brandon Cooks in his second game, I think, with the Giants. Yeah, I believe this is the second one, 94 yards. Ted Ginn Jr. with 80. Dez Bryant, throw up the X, 71 yards. And a touchdown. A lot of scoring this game. But in a shocker, the Giants walk away with a 54-28 win. Let's actually look into week 5 as we are pretty much through it. The first one, Kansas City, after Kansas City put up 105 last week, and we're not even going to get into that game. We're not even going to get into that game. 49 points this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it looks like either Pat Mahomes got hurt or I don't know what happened, but for some reason Chad Henne stepped out there. Pat Mahomes still had 369 yards. Tim Boyle with 454 yards. Wow. 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Pat Mahomes with 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Rushing wise, Damian Williams, with 201 rushing yards. Woo. TJ Yeldon with 116. Defensive numbers, how are we looking today? 3 interceptions by Dorian O'Daniel. He's actually been catching up really well. Jordan Lucas with 2 himself. Kendall Fuller with 1. Ronnie Harrison with 1. And Keon Crozen, what his name is. He comes in with 1 too. Do we have any sacks? These 2 teams have been really good on keeping people from sacking, but we had 2, 3, 4, 5 sacks today. 2 by Steven Nelson, 1 by Trevor Williams, 1 by Malik Jackson, and 1 by Breland Speaks. Ooh, I can't wait to face these 2 teams this year. Tyreek Hill, as you can expect, went off for 234 yards. DJ Chark Jr., 206 yards. TJ Yeldon with 103 yards out the backfield. 4 touchdowns from Tyreek Hill. 2 from DJ Chark, and 2 from TJ Yeldon himself. Travis Kelce gets on the board. Chris Conley and Keelan Cole. I'm willing to say no signs of Sammy Watkins today. Just a quiet 3 catches for 62 yards. Let's see what other numbers we got up here today. We had a tight one here. We'll come back to this one. Let me see. I believe there was a crazier one that I wanted to address. Yes, it is. After getting spanked by the Colts, the Houston Texans get back on the board by taking down the self-claimed Super Bowl Dallas Cowboys in a not even close game. This game looked from the scoreboard looks like it wasn't close. It was 21-7 at half and ends up 14-38 by the end of the game. Wow. Let's see what stats were produced in this game. Deshaun Watson gets back at it. 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Dak Prescott, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He's actually been having a horrific year. We'll pull up his numbers in a little bit. Ezekiel Elliott brought back down to earth, 53 rushing yards. Lamar Miller with 181, 2 touchdowns. Rod Smith, Dante Foreman this week finally getting on the board. Receiving Amari Cooper with 97 yards, but he's trumped by DeAndre Hopkins with 116 yards. Demaryius Thomas right just sandwiching Amari Cooper with 91 yards and a touchdown. Amari Cooper was held to no touchdowns today. The Dallas Allen Hurns had a touchdown, so at least he was able to get on the board with one of his receivers. But defensively, this is where it all comes into play. Interception's a big thing. These things change games. Anthony Brown had 2, but then from there, Tyrann Mathieu comes back with 2. But Benardrick McKinney with an interception himself, and Aaron Colvin with an interception. How many sacks were given up today? Oh, get that alarm. Bada bing, bada boom. We had 2 sacks from Jadeveon Clowney, the white ghost. LVE with a sack. Tyron Crawford with a sack. Kayvon Webster with a sack. And DJ Reader with a sack. And that was a shocker. I really did not think the self-proclaimed champs would go down that bad early this season with the team they have. Our shocker. After putting up 54 against a strong Saints team, New York nearly drops one against against the Panthers in Carolina. I believe it came to a roaring comeback. 10-0 through 3 quarters, and then finally at the end of the game, 14 points gets them the win. That's crazy. Kyle Luletta with I hope that's how I'm pronouncing. I hope that's right. I gotta check these pronunciations. 5 interceptions. I mean, he is just horrific this year. But he managed to put up a touchdown, and Cam Newton did not. It means rushing attack was pretty big today. And Saquon Barkley was taken off the board. It feels like six carries for 11 rushing yards. Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries for 103 rushing yards. Receiving wise, Brandon Cooks with another 80-yard game. Sterling Shepard with 77 yards to boot. Lo and behold, touchdown on a 6-yard pass to Evan Ingram, which I think won him the game. If I got my my timing right on that. Let's see if we can pull up. No, we won't be able to pull up the play-by-play. Love to see what was the game-winning play on that one. Defensively, I mean, it looked like they really had a strong game. Carolina, as far as creating 5 turnovers, Thomas Davis Sr. with 2, James Bradley with 1, David Mayo with 1, Kyle Fuller with 1, and New York only manages to create 1 interception. Still not enough. Deion Jordan with two sacks. David Mayo with a sack and an interception. Did he force a fumble for the trifecta? No forced fumble for the trifecta. Okay. Lorenzo Carter with a sack. Ooh, it looked like a lot of people. You get a sack. I mean, it was just sacks galore today. We'll see how that plays out with the quarterback's health. Now, we're going to look in the league stats for later on, but right now, let's go to bada bing, bada boom. Let us look at the last couple trades to be made. Bada bing. Traded. I wanted to bring up this trade right here. I am shaking my head at these guys swapped in the same division. The Bucks get DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel for Mike Evans and a third. And this trade really, I mean, I'm not one to knock anybody's trades, but in the division, the only trade I could think of that was worse was Hogan and the Cardinals trading Patrick Peterson within the division to the rival Los Angeles Rams. I mean, man, you guys got to get smarter on your trades, man. Got to get smarter on your trades. Got to face them guys 2 times a year. So let's look at the stats for the season and wrap this thing up. Well, before we look at that, I do want to check to see if any major injuries are updated. Injury report. As you can tell, I'm dealing with an injury myself, a big one. Let's see, just run through real quick, see if we got any big ones. Any big ones? Ooh, look like the Chargers got 2 major players, Mike Pouncey and Tyrell Williams, on the long list. 6 and 7 weeks. That's crazy. Chiefs, D Ford with a dislocated hip for 6 weeks. The Colts, Marlon Mack. Oh, that's a hurt piece. That's a hurt piece. Cameron Wake injured for the Dolphins. Zach Ertz, who's close to coming back for the Eagles. Giants, nobody. Oh, there we go. Olivier Vernon, 2 weeks with a broken rib. Blake Bortles, who you probably not missing anyway, but Frank Ragnow, that's a big loss. Sam Darnold is injured. Anybody else? Ooh, Devontae Adams. Do we have a pack? Yes, we do have a Packers user. Aaron Jones is well injured. Luke Kuechly, who's on the trade. Wow, I didn't even see that. Kenyon Barner, 33 weeks out with a torn pectoral muscle, and Luke Kuechly 4 weeks until he comes back. And it looks like Easy is trying to trade him. So if anybody got any offers, just remember he's 27, coming off a dislocated hip. I'd use that to my advantage, people. Who else do we have up here? Nobody else major. Drew Brees coming back, but Demaryius Thomas still has 2 weeks out. And that's it. Taylor Lewan, 2 weeks. Taylor Lewan. Kevin Byard with 3 weeks. Brian Arakpo, even though he should have been retired. Brian Arakpo should have been retired, but only 1 week. He'll be back. He's a soldier. And Kirk Cousins, 4 weeks with an abdominal tear. So, let's look at our stats real quick. Who's the stat leaders? I'm pretty sure if you've been following, you already know the Chiefs pretty much are running wild with the AFC numbers. And it looks like the 49ers are pretty much running wild in the NFC with whatever, set of plays that they're doing. No shit, though. Passing yards leaders. We'll do the top 3 in every position. Patrick Mahomes leading with 1,900 yards through 5 weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo right behind him with 1,800 yards. Jared Goff with 1,600 yards. And honorable mention, Phillip Rivers with 1,500 yards. Rushing wise, your top 3 rushers are Damian Williams with 600 yards through 5 weeks. Ezekiel Elliott with almost 600 yards through 5 weeks. Kenyon Drake with 485 yards. And honorable mention, Alvin Kamara with 480 yards. Receiving yards. Let's go yards. 1,000 from Tyreek Hill already through 5 weeks. Almost 1,000 with Marquise Goodwin. 900 with DJ Chark, and Ted Ginn with 600. Why are we looking on touchdowns? I think that's the big one. 12 and a couple people with 7. So, a lot of money plays getting ran with Tyreek Hill. You better learn how to stop him, man. Better learn how to stop him. Defensively, how we looking? Sacks. Fred Warner with 15. Jalen Merrick with 10. Everson Griffin with 10 himself. And Von Bell with 9 himself. Let's see our interception leaders. Kiko Alonso still leading the league in interceptions with 7. Dorian O'Daniel with 6. Thomas Davis Sr. with 5. And Jonathan Joseph, an honorable mention, tied with 5 as well. I mean, any other crazy numbers we need to look at? Let's look at passing touchdowns. I think that's big because there is a couple things I want to pull up. 21 touchdowns for Pat Mahomes, 17 for Teddy Bridgewater, 16 for Tom Brady, 15 for Jared Goff. But then, these are where the numbers really get bad. When we look at interceptions, 3 touchdowns to 16 interceptions for Marcus Mariota. That is not good. 5 touchdowns to 15 interceptions already thrown by Kyle Luletta. 7 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. And this is the self-proclaimed Super Bowl champ, people. Phillip Rivers, 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Tim Boyle, I mean, you know, he's a backup. He's a backup and a terrible backup. But 9 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who's second in the league in yards, has a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Man, you guys keep going for those big numbers and it's going to backfire. Trying to teach you guys. Got to learn. Let's look at our touchdown leaders in the rushing boards. Gus Edwards currently leading the league with 10 touchdowns. Todd Gurley bringing it in with 9. Ezekiel Elliott with 8. Corey Grant with 7. And then we have 3 people tied with 6. Ooh, those rushing numbers this is starting to separate your teams with the rushing numbers, people. And I think that's it. So, as I said, man, I hope to advance tonight. I hope we can. We have what? Let's see the game schedule real quick for you guys. We currently have player versus player games. Are the only ones I'm worried about. Galvanez, you called out the league for not letting you know, but you were tagged. Better get that PvP game done, or I will sim it. PV computer game done. We have EJ versus Mel. Hopefully that gets played tonight. Nate versus Nathaniel. Damn, I think that is it. Nate versus Nate. Hopefully that one gets played tonight. We'll see how that shapes up. And then the Eagles versus the Vikings, which is supposed to be scheduled for 11 tonight. Those are the only player versus player games left to be played. Let's get them done, people. And I'm out.